Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 100 Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Bumblebee. Let's start off by taking a look at the packaging and then we'll get into the review. So of course up front we have Transformers on the side, a really cool artwork shot of Bumblebee and a really nice battle pose. We have 100 Bumblebee with an Autobot symbol and Studio Series, an open window displaying the figure in the packaging. We have Rise of the Beast at the top corner right there. Also on the top of the box right here we have the Rise of the Beast logo as well. And turning to the side, we have a really cool close-up of Bumblebee's face with Studio Series on the side, 100 and Deluxe Class in several different languages. On the back, he transforms in 23 steps. There's a product shot of him in his robot mode and alt mode, and there's an included backdrop of the Volcano Showdown that I will show in this video. If we do turn to this, the final side here, we have another close-up of Bumblebee looking very cool there, also with an Autobot symbol at the top, and that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now get into the review. Here we have Bumblebee in his off-road Camaro alt mode. Let's start off by taking a look at the details. Starting at the very front with this really nice black section, almost a cage design. We have some silver for the front headlights with some glossy black for these two stripes on the hood with some shiny yellow on the side. This is another cage design here right next to the front windscreen or window section with some floodlights done in black. Would have been nice if maybe there was some yellow or silver for the bulbs themselves, but that's a very minor complaint. Turning to the back, we have those stripes continuing all the way to the back of the car. This really nice venting section done in black as well, with two red backlights there looking pretty cool. And there's actually quite a few nice details on the side of the car as well. I actually really do like the tires because, you know, this is an off-road Camaro, not the typical sports car Camaro we've seen in the 2007 Transformers movies. So I really do like how the tires are big and chunky and kind of bulky. And the clear plastic for the windows is pretty cool as well. And there's actually a sculpted in door handle and mirror. So detail-wise, I'm actually pretty impressed. Now for some comparisons. Here he is with the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast Core Class RC. And I think they look pretty cool next to each other. And I think size-wise, I think it works because RC has always been a pretty small, you know, skinny, stealthy Autobot. I think it looks pretty good next to Bumblebee. And her review is coming very soon on the channel. And now for one more quick comparison. Here he is with the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast Voyager Class Cheetor. So you can actually now recreate that scene in the trailer with them running or driving alongside each other in that big open field. And I actually really do like that scene because it shows how freaking massive Cheetor is in his cheetah mode. So that's pretty cool next to each other. Looks really nice. And that's pretty much it for comparisons. So now for accessories, he actually does come with two. The first being is this really cool battle blade. So this is actually kind of a nod to the Bumblebee movie. He used that in several times during the film. He used it to fight Blitzwing, Shatter, Dropkick, stuff like that. And that was actually mostly done in kind of a gunmetal gray and silver. And I really would have liked that to be like that for this weapon, because unfortunately in the robot mode, when you attach this to his forearm, of course, as we all know, Bumblebee is mostly done in yellow. That's his base color, and his arms are actually also done in yellow. So the weapon and the figure's arm kind of blends together, and it doesn't look that good. So it would have been nice if this weapon was done in kind of a silver or gunmetal gray. That's really my only complaint for it. Still, I really do like this blade, but storage for this mode, you just actually turn to the underside of the car, and there is a slot right there. And there is a tab right there, and that is the storage. So I'm just going to tab that into place just like that, and there we go. As for the second weapon, which I think is pretty cool, it's actually his cannon or blaster. I actually really do like all the cylinder sections, and they're really nice, almost gunmetal gray color, and this is actually Blast Beast compatible. And how this stores is there is a tab right there, and there is a slot on the back of the car, and that just tabs into place just like that. I think it stores pretty well. It would have been nice maybe if there was another way you could store the cannon or the blaster underneath the car, just like the sword. That's just my opinion, because from certain views, it kind of just hangs off the back. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the car mode. So I'm just going to take off the accessories, and we can actually now get down to transformation. So just untab the sword. So now for transformation, what you're going to want to do is actually disconnect this entire section here. As you can see, there's a tab on this side and two tabs on there. Then what you can do is actually untab the doors from this side, just like that. And then what you can do is go to the other side, lift the arms up, just like that. You can then push these sections out, and sometimes, unfortunately, it can untab the wheel, but you just tab that back in there, just like that. So just untab this front wheel section. Do the same thing on the other side, just bring that out. And then what you can do is bring the arms out, just like that. Bring the arms out. And then what you can do is untab the entire front grille section, like that. Lift this all up, like that. You can then fold in this panel underneath, like that. and then fold this other section underneath as well. And then the head will be pushed through like that. And then you can readjust the arms just to get them out of the way. And then this entire section here will kind of go into that gap like that, as you can see, just filling in the entire back section. You can split the legs just like that, push the foot out, rotate this forward like that, and then you just get this entire back section here, rotate this to the correct alignment. Do the same thing on the other foot, so just bring this out, rotate this forward, get this back section, rotate this down. And that is pretty much it for transformation. Just kind of reposition them. And if they haven't already, for some reason I might copy these sections here are very loose, but if they haven't already, just kind of angle these like that, or you can have them straight how they usually were. I prefer them angled. But there we have Bumblebee in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Bumblebee in his robot mode. Let's start off by taking a look at the details, starting at the very top with the head sculpt. Really nice silver for the face, and there's actually some silver on these side sections, and the main helmet section done in yellow for the ears as well, and some blue for the eyes, looking pretty cool. As for, of course, the shoulders and the arms, really nice silver for the inner form, and this almost gear detail for the shoulder, and these really cool armor yellow platings on the outside, looking pretty cool there. And I do like the chest, how the headlights are almost sideways. This is really how Hasbro does it. If you don't like the angle, you can actually position them straight if you want to, really just up to your own personal preference. So there's quite a bit of silver there with some gunmetal gray. I think that looks pretty cool. We do have the door wings, a very classic Bumblebee detail. I do like the clear plastic, and you can actually still see the little door handle there, which I think is pretty cool. And mostly the stomach and crushed in that gunmetal gray with some yellow and silver for the rest of the legs. I do like all the spikes and kind of angles. So I do like the wheels, how they're on the side of the legs. I'm just not a big fan of how they stick out so far. They kind of stick out just a tad bit too much for my liking. Again, I do like the position of them, how they're on the side of the leg. I think that looks pretty cool. Just from certain views, it's a bit ugly to see the entire mushroom pig in there. That's not the greatest. But for the feet, mostly plain, really just done in yellow and silver. And I have to say, I've actually had quite a few Bumblebee live action figures in the past. I don't have any now. This is actually my only live action Bumblebee figure. Currently, again, I'm pretty sure the Revenge of the Fallen version, the Bumblebee from Dark of the Moon, maybe even the Last Night too. I've had so many of them, and I sold them all off because I never really liked the back. There was always too much kibble on the back. I have to say, with this figure, I think they've compacted all the junk and kibble, probably the best I've ever seen, and I've had quite a few Bumblebees from the movies, so I'm quite impressed with that. And then we do have the door wings here, and of course, this actually looks pretty good for kibble. It looks pretty good. We have the stripes, we have this entire cage section up top, so I'm very impressed in that aspect. There is a bit of waffling on the inside of the leg there, so that doesn't look the greatest, but I'd say probably my biggest complaint is the eyes. So I actually did do a news video when this was first revealed. I'm assuming probably if you've seen it, you know what I'm about to talk about, but in that video, I was just like, the eyes just look off. They just look a little bit weird. And in that video, I'm pretty sure I said, maybe when I get in hands, I'll change my mind, but I haven't. I don't like the eyes. It's just one solid color blue. Don't get me wrong, the shade of blue they use is pretty cool, but it just looks kind of dorky and a bit like weird, like almost too bug-like. I know in the movie, Bumblebee is supposed to be kind of bug-like because he's, you know, Bumblebee, but it just seems a bit weird to me, kind of weird. It would have been nice maybe if they'd used like two different shades, like blue and green or something like that. Just add a bit of interesting color details to it, because it's just a solid blue. This kind of reminds me of the Kingdom Cheetor, where his, you know, whole head eyes were just like a solid yellow. And also with the, you know, Legacy Evolution Leo Prime, his entire line face is just one solid color. I'm pretty sure that one's yellow also. So they seem kind of possessed a bit. This one is better than those two, because there is actually some surface detailing. That was the problem mostly with Leo Prime and Cheetor. There was no molded in detailing for the eyes. It was just a kind of smooth circle. It looked really weird. So there is some sculpted in eye detailing, which is cool. I just think the solid color blue looks a bit off to me. I'd say the other complaint of mine, besides the wheels, which I did already mention, is the exposed mushroom pig there. I do like the door wings, but of course they're pretty much completely covered up by this. And this doesn't look the greatest, the exposed mushroom peg. So it would have been nice maybe if this was more visible, or they could have had the actual wheel facing forward. smaller, I think that would have looked a lot better. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I do have a complaint about the size, but I'll get into that in just a little bit. But now for articulation, the head can look up and down, side to side. Of course, the arm can move out and in. There is a elbow bend and bicep rotation. Unfortunately, there is no wrist rotation. There is waist rotation, a bit hard to access. It's actually very tight on my copy, of course. Slightly hindered by the backpack, but there is one. The leg can kick that far forward, that far back, out to the side. Unfortunately, a tad bit limited. There is a knee bend and an ankle pivot. So pretty good articulation. I'd say the only areas that could improve are probably, the wrist rotation, unfortunately, is not a part of it, which this is, again, is one of those figures. I'm going to point this out whenever it happens. It's one of those figures where the arm is not like transformed or modified for the other mode in any way. So I really don't think anything was stopping them from adding a wrist rotation other than budgets. I'm assuming probably that's why budget. They don't have enough money to do it. And this is kind of like Battle Trap, where Battle Trap does not have a wrist rotation and you don't transform pretty much the arm in like any way. So a bit odd, but that is pretty much it for articulation. Overall, again, pretty good. Now for accessories, as I briefly showed them earlier, it does have his battle blade, and this is what I'm going to talk about, what I mentioned earlier. So you can tab it in on either arm, which is pretty cool. So there is 2 tabs and 2 slots right there. And you just tab this into place just like that. And yes, it is cool. I actually really do like this weapon. This was probably my preferred in the movie, in the Bumblebee movie. I actually liked it over the blaster, or the cannon. It's pretty cool. It kind of blends in with the rest of the figure. All of his arm is yellow, so it just kind of looks like this weird thing sticking out of his arm. So would have been nice if they had done this in like a silver or gunmetal gray. I think that would have looked a lot better. But so there's actually another way you can store this sword or blade. So you can actually go to the back, which I think this is pretty cool. So there is a tab right there on the door wing, and there is a slot right there, and this will just tab right into place just like that. It's okay storage. Kind of just drapes down from the door wing. I don't think I'm ever going to use this. It's a good feature. Again, I probably won't ever use it, but there is also a spot for the cannon, and I will show it implemented to his arm in just a second. There is, of course, this whole slot here, and there is a tab right there, and that will just tab into place just like that. And there we have both weapons stored back here. Again, probably not going to use this that much because it's a bit weird. They're just kind of hanging from there. I prefer them to be attached on his arm, so I'm going to go do that, have him fully weaponed up with his sword and cannon. And of course, again, you can put the plate on either side. There's just the tab and the slot. Just plugging that into place. As for his cannon, there is a whole peg here, and there is a port in the hands, and you just plug that in, just like that. So there we have him fully weaponed up, and I think that looks very cool in my opinion. Now for some comparisons, here he is with Battle Trap. I guess I'm going to have to zoom out just a tad bit, or move up a little bit. There we go. Have them all in view. I have to say, I think just the overall size and scale just doesn't work for me. This is a good Bumblebee figure, but, scale and size, not only just to Battle Trap, but just in general, I think Bumblebee is too small. I do know he's one of the more agile, smaller, characters or Transformers. Optimus is probably the biggest one from the Bayverse films. I just think he's too small because he's like, Battle Trap is like towering over him. Of course, we haven't seen the Rise of the Beast movie yet, so maybe he does tower over him, but there's some other comparisons where I just think it's a bit off. I've placed him with some other Legacy Evolution figures, and I think he's a bit too small. I know he's not a Voyager. He's definitely not a Voyager, but I do find it odd how they increased the size of Cheetor. Now he's a Voyager, when traditionally, in the Beast Wars show, he was a pretty small figure. He was a pretty small, robot or Transformer. So I don't really get that, and then they just shrunk Bumblebee even more. So I think he could be a little bit bigger. He seems a bit too small, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But for another comparison, here he is with Airezer. And I think he could be, at least the height of Airezer, or maybe just a little bit smaller. I think he just a bit too small to the other figures. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you think it looks? How does he look with the other figures? Do you think he's the right size? Is he too small? Or do you think he's fine? And for another comparison, here he is with RC. And that is pretty much it for comparisons and Bumblebee's robot mode. So let's now get down to the final thoughts. So now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Studio Series 100 Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Bumblebee. I think overall this figure is pretty good. I'm actually going to start with my complaints and then I'll get to the positives because there's actually quite a few positives. So my first complaint, the eyes, it just doesn't work for me. It kind of reminds me of the Kingdom Cheetor and the Legacy Evolution Leo Prime. The eyes were just kind of dead, almost looked possessed. It just didn't work. This one is an improvement because there is actually sculpted in like surface detailing for the eyes. There's actually kind of layers. It looks mechanical. That was one of the main complaints with Cheetor and Leo Prime. The eyes were just kind of a smooth ball or like a smooth circle. It looks super weird. There was no like surface detailing. There was no iris. And that was one of the main problems. This one still has that same problem where it's just one solid color of blue. Actually, on the box art, the eyes look pretty cool. It's almost a mixture of like blue and green, and it looks really cool. There's several different colors. So if they could have just added maybe a little bit of silver or some more green, just add a few more colors, because as it is, it just looks a bit kind of weird and odd to me. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but another complaint of mine is I think the size. So I just let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section down below. Do you think he's the right size? I do know in the Bayverse films and even in Bumblebee, he was more of the smaller bot. He wasn't that big, especially in the, Blitzwing Bumblebee fight in the Bumblebee movie. He was pretty small compared to Blitzwing. Blitzwing was huge. I do agree with that. It's a smaller, figure or character, but I think he's just a tad too small compared to some other ones. I do know he is small, but I think he probably could have been a little bit bigger. Just let me know if I'm wrong. Another complaint is, mostly to do with the wheels. So the wheels and the legs, I do like the position of them. They look pretty cool on the side, but unfortunately they do stick out quite a bit. So from certain views, you can actually see kind of the exposed, mushroom peg right there. You can actually see it right there. So that doesn't look the greatest. And the wheels near the door wings. So I actually really do like the door wings. You can actually angle them back to have more of a dynamic pose, which I think is pretty cool. But the exposed mushroom peg is pretty much just sticking straight forward. So it would have been nice if we could have seen, the front side of the wheel forward rather than the other side. That's just my opinion. Or they could have stored them differently, because it does kind of cover up the entire door wing like this. You can actually see right there. So that doesn't look the greatest. But other than that, those are all my cons. There's quite a few pros. So I actually really do like the cannon. Pretty cool. Gunmetal gray. Really do like all the cylinders. It's actually Blast Beast compatible. So that's pretty cool. And I do like the blade. Just, it would have been nice if it wasn't like a silver or like a gunmetal gray. I've heard quite a few people complain about that because when it turns around, you'll see it kind of blends in with the rest of the figure. Most of Bumblebee is yellow, so if they had done like a silver or gunmetal gray, that really would have popped. I think my possible theory of why they didn't want to do silver is because already the inside of the forearms are silver as well, so maybe they thought that would have been too much silver in one area, which is agreeable. So if they'd done like a gunmetal gray or like a black, something like that, I think that would have been better. I think that would have been an improvement. Also, I did mention this earlier in the review. It's been a while actually since I've had a live action Bumblebee. I used to have several. I used to have like the first, the Transformers movie 1 Bumblebee. I probably had the Revenge of the Fallen. I had a lot. I sold them all off because I just never liked the back. There was always so much kibble on the back of the figure and it just didn't work. And I never really liked the feet design. The feet design, I can't remember which one. Again, I had so many Bumblebees back then. It was before like I even started the channel. It was a while ago. And I just never liked the feet design, and there was a ton of kibble on the back. I have to say they majorly improved on this one. There's not nearly as much kibble, and it stores away nicely. And yes, there is a bit of a backpack, but it actually looks good. There's the entire, kind of black cage section on top. We have the two really cool stripes. So, good-looking kibble is fine kibble for me. Ugly kibble, not the greatest. So, overall, definitely an improvement there. Other than that, articulation is pretty good. I'd say the only thing that could improve slightly better is probably the wrist swivel. That's kind of one of these figures where you don't even transform the hands or the arm whatsoever. They just kind of tab to the underside of the car. So nothing was really stopping them from adding a wrist swivel other than probably budget. That's usually what I guess. Kind of like with Battle Trap, if you watch my review, he's the same. You don't transform or the hands don't like get in the way at all if there was a wrist swivel. So probably it is budget. I'm assuming that's what it's down to. Now for transformation, it's actually pretty fun. I don't really have have any problems. It's really not that complex. It's kind of one of those figures you can just like have at your desk or just, you know, on a shelf, and you can just transform. It's just one of those fun transformations that you can do quite a bit, which is actually really nice to have. You can have some more complex ones, like I'd say Battletrap. He's more complex, or definitely more, you know, movement. There's quite a few more things you need to pay attention to. This one, you can pick it up and transform it in like, you know, 10 seconds. Now for the off-road Camaro car mode, I actually really do like it. I like the entire kind of front cage section on the grille and the floodlights. It would have been nice if there was like some silver or yellow just to add the bulb detailing, but that's just a matter of complaints. The weapon storage is pretty cool. You can actually store the blade under the car, and the whole cannon can store on the back of the car. It is good storage, just from certain views, you know, it kind of just hangs off the end. So it would have been nice if there was some storage for the cannon underneath the car as well. That's just my complaints. But I do like all the other details, like the little doorknob, the mirror, and the clear plastic always looks really nice. So it's overall a really good figure. And just, you know, take it from me, if you're still on the fence, as I said before, I've had quite a few Bumblebees, and I just never really liked them enough to keep them. As I said, I sold them all off. This one, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of. It's a pretty good Bumblebee, and I have pretty high standards for Bumblebees specifically, because, you know, I've had so many. So I took a chance on this one, and I think I made the right decision. So let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. It does have problems, but I think it's still worth to pick up. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.